And good morning again. We welcome to the broadcast the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, California Senator Dianne Feinstein. Thank you so much, Senator, for coming. You have been a big defender from the beginning of the National Security Agency, but you were clearly upset with the revelation that we were tapping German Chancellor Angela Merkel's cell phone. You said it was a big problem that the president was apparently unaware of this. Do you believe that the president didn't know this was happening?
Oh, I can't answer that. I don't know. But I think where allies are close, tapping private phones of theirs, particularly of the leader is what I'm talking about, has much more political liability than probably intelligence viability. And I think we ought to look at it carefully. I believe the president is doing that, and there are some exceptions.
Well, do you think that the National Security Agency has gone too far then?
Well, let me say something about the NSA. I believe the NSA is filled with good patriotic people who want to do the right thing. They follow the orders they're given. The administration controls intelligence. The National Intelligence Framework is put together by the administration. It begins with the Director of National Intelligence. It goes to the White House. It's the President. It's the NSC. It's the Cabinet. And then the framework is formed. Now, what happens is people add to it. State wants this, Department of State wants to know this, or somebody else wants to know that. Priorities are ranked. As I understand it, these are the priorities. 1, terrorism. 2, support of our military abroad. 3, nuclear counterproliferation. 4, hard targets. And now cyber. And those are the main areas. So essentially, the NSA is told to do certain things, and it does it. What I think we need to do, and we work very well with the House Committee and the leadership of Mike Rogers and Congressman Ruppersberger, is put together a review of the intelligence framework of how all this gets together, what the criteria for inclusion are. And then we ought to take a look at all the programs that fall under this, because it's not just the metadata collection program, which is Section 215, and 702, which is the email program from afar. That's been the big news up to now. These are other programs that are formed in different ways under.
But what you're saying
national
is there needs to be a full review and then decide where we go from there.
Yes, the White House is doing it, and we're going to begin it if we can get the appropriate staff.
Let me ask you about this. A German politician actually visited with Edward Snowden, the defector, who dumped all of this information out into the end of the public arena. Met with him last week in Russia. He said he would try to enlist his help to investigate the NSA and suggested that he be brought back to this country and given clemency. What would be your reaction to that?
My reaction would be negative. First of all, this is an American. He was a contractor. He was trusted. He stripped our system. He had an opportunity, if what he was a whistleblower, to pick up the phone and call the House Intelligence Committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee, and say, look, I have some information you ought to see. And we would certainly see him. Maybe both together, maybe separately, but we would have seen him and we would have looked at that information. That didn't happen. And now he's done this enormous disservice to our country. And I think the answer is no clemency.
Well, in other words, if the United States could get their hands on him, you would suggest that he be prosecuted.
That's correct.
Let me shift to the rollout of Obamacare. I mean, this thing seems to be a disaster. It's nothing like the administration said it was going to be. So many things that were supposed to happen didn't happen. Where are we on this?
I think where we are is the divide between policy and technology. It's pretty clear, I think, to those of us that have been watching this rollout, that the technological base was not sufficient. and that the website didn't function. You know, I felt, and I said this directly to the President's Chief of Staff, they ought to take down the website until it was right. They believe that they need to keep it running and that they can sort out the difficulties, that they brought in technological experts from a broad base of the private sector, and that by the end of November it can be sorted out and be functioning properly. I don't think there's ever been any website started to do what this website does in the size of this one. I don't make excuse, but I think that is pretty much fact of what's happened.
The president said in the beginning, if the one thing was that if you liked the health care program you had, you could keep it. We now know there was debate within the administration before he said that as to whether that was actually a promise that could be kept. Should the president not have made that statement?
Well, as I understand it, you can keep it up to the time, and I hope this is correct, but this is what I've been told, up to the time the bill was enacted. Then after that, it's a different story. I think that part of it, if true, was never made clear. It is really very unclear right now exactly what the situation is. And yes, that's a problem, but you know, I think it has to be said, this is a very large, major priority. And if it can get up and running, it can be, I think, a very positive thing. The big problem here is there are so many destroyers in the House, in the public, in the private healthcare sector that just want to destroy.
Well, I mean,
and that's not helpful.
I take your point, but the fact is the thing doesn't work.
The fact is there's a problem with the startup. I won't go so far right now as to say the plan isn't going to work once it gets started up.
Let me ask you one other thing quickly. A man walked into the Los Angeles airport Friday, opened fire on TSA officials with an assault weapon. Does this put more pressure on you to revive your efforts to get another assault weapons ban through Congress, or is that dead?
Well, let me just first of all say, because this happened in California and it happened to my constituents, and I have some wounded and dead constituents, let me just pay tribute to TSA Agent Hernandez, a father of 2 children with a wife, shot point blank at his station, doing work he believed in, and to me is a very, very special person. Yeah. So to all of those, my deepest sorrow. Having said that, the weapon was a .223 MP-15. The MP stands for military and police, clearly designed not for general consumption, but through practice, now general consumption. Same gun that was used at Aurora. Would I do a bill? Sure I would do a bill. I mean, I believe this down deep in my soul.
Do you think there's any way that such a bill could pass?
No, I don't. I don't. I think there's a hammerlock on the Congress by the gun owners and gun people, and it doesn't matter. Now it's going to be interesting to see whether this weapon was outlawed in California and whether it was purchased in California.
All right. Well, Senator, thank you so much.
You're
for
very
being
welcome,
with us
Bob.
this morning.
Thank you.